Before Tony Stark, before Steve Rogers, before Thor landed on Earth with his hammer and his hair, there was another team. A team so powerful, so ancient, that the Avengers we know today are basically the junior varsity squad by comparison. We are talking about a group that assembled 1 million years ago, looked a dying celestial in the face, and decided to fight it anyway. And standing at the center of all of that, holding the line between Earth and everything trying to destroy it, was a being named Agamotto, the first Sorcerer Supreme who ever lived. If you have ever worn or seen the Eye of Agamotto around Doctor Strange's neck and thought it was just a cool glowing necklace, this video is going to change the way you see that thing forever. Let's start at the very beginning, because this story genuinely begins before recorded history. Agamotto was not human. He was born mortal, but not in the way we understand the word. His mother was Oshtur, one of Marvel's Elder Goddess's beings who existed on Earth before the Elder Gods were cast out of it. Oshtur was a benevolent cosmic entity of enormous power, and Agamotto inherited that lineage from day one. He grew up as a child with an almost obsessive hunger for knowledge, constantly asking his mother questions about history, magic, the cosmos, and everything in between. Oshtur loved this about him, and she poured information into him every single day. Then she left. Oshtur decided to venture beyond Earth's boundaries into higher dimensions, and she went without telling Agamotto when she'd be back. She never came back. Agamotto, now alone, sat under the acacia tree where they used to talk and waited. And when waiting wasn't enough, he decided to go find her. That search is what ended up shaping him into the most powerful sorcerer Earth had ever produced. During that search, he discovered what became known as the 3 paths of magic. The first path was called the Arcanum Ego Magic, drawn from the self, from his own inner awareness. When he unlocked it, an artifact materialized in front of him, the Eye of Power. The second path was the Arcanum Eco, a form of magic rooted in the natural world that took him 7 years of traveling the globe to master. That unlocked the Orb of Agamotto, also called the Eye of Prescience. The third path came when he finally stopped searching, when he released his obsession and surrendered to the vastness of the cosmos. In that moment of letting go, the Eye of Truth appeared the artifact we now know as the Eye of Agamotto, the same one Doctor Strange uses in the comics and the MCU. By the time all 3 eyes had appeared to him, Agamotto was no longer just a student looking for his mother. He had become something else entirely. Here is where the timeline gets extraordinary. This was not happening in 2000 BC or even 10,000 BC. According to Marvel continuity established by Jason Aaron, Agamotto was already an adult, already the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth, already wielding the powers of the Vishanti 1 million years ago. That puts him operating during the early Pleistocene, when the dominant species on Earth were prehistoric humans who hadn't even developed language yet in the way we understand it. This man, this being, was out there defending the planet from threats that make Thanos look like a minor inconvenience. Being Sorcerer Supreme is not a title you hold until someone better comes along and takes it. It is a responsibility. Agamotto took that responsibility seriously. He fought Dormammu, not the Dormammu that Doctor Strange fought in the movie, facing off in a time loop with cleverness and tenacity. Agamotto went at Dormammu directly, holding the barrier between the dark dimension and Earth's reality. He battled a cosmic demon called the Fallen, not alone, but as part of something that changed Marvel lore permanently when Jason Aaron put it on the page. In September 2017, writer Jason Aaron and artist Esad Ribic released Marvel Legacy #1, a 50-page one-shot that effectively rewrote the foundation of the Marvel Universe. The centerpiece of that issue was the revelation that there had been an Avengers team operating on Earth 1 million years before the team we know. Aaron didn't just throw together a random group of prehistoric characters. He built a team that mirrored the structure of the modern Avengers almost perfectly, but filtered through characters and powers that could have realistically existed in the Stone Age. The team was called the Avengers of 1 million BC, and here is who was on it. Agamotto, Earth's first Sorcerer Supreme. He was essentially the Doctor Strange of the prehistoric era, the one who kept an eye on the bigger picture while everyone else was swinging weapons. Odin, the All-Father of Asgard. Not the old one-eyed king we see in the Thor films and modern comics. This was a younger Odin, still a prince at this point in Asgardian terms, wielding Mjolnir. Thor had not been born yet. Odin was the heavy hitter of this team, the one who led the charge when raw power was needed. The first Black Panther. Not T'Challa, but Mosi, the leader of a tribe in what would eventually become Wakanda. What makes him special is that he was the first human to unlock the power of the vibranium meteorite that had crashed into the Earth. His weapons were vibranium, 1,000,000 years before anyone else even knew what that metal was capable of. Lady Phoenix, also known as Firehair, a mutant woman who bonded with the Phoenix Force, one of the most destructive cosmic entities in existence. She was the raw, barely contained power on this team, and her relationship with Odin during this era has implications that echo into Thor's own mythology. Then we have Fan Fei, the first Iron Fist. She was a woman who killed Shou-Lao the Undying, the dragon that grants the Iron Fist power, and became the first person ever to hold that title. The city of Kunlun eventually exiled her for wanting to use her power to help people outside the city's walls, rather than keeping it as a closely guarded secret. She was cast out for being too good. The first Ghost Rider, a warrior from a tribe of mammoth riders who made a deal with Mephisto to become the first host of the Spirit of Vengeance. He didn't drive a motorcycle. He rode a flaming woolly mammoth. And finally, the first Starbrand. He was a human who absorbed the power of the Starbrand, a cosmic energy source from the dead remains of the first creature that ever held it on Earth. That creature was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Starbrand powered a dinosaur before it powered a person. Starbrand was essentially the Hulk equivalent of this team, raw physical cosmic power in human form. 7 characters, each one representing a legacy that stretches forward through Marvel history all the way to the present day. Now, here is the story that actually brought this team together and why it matters to everything that came after. 4 billion years ago, a celestial arrived on Earth. This particular celestial, called the Progenitor, was infected by something called the Horde, a swarm of parasitic cosmic insects that corrupt and consume living things from the inside. The Progenitor died on Earth, and its body bled into the planet, permanently altering the genetic material that would eventually produce every superpowered being in Marvel history. The Horde is literally why superpowers exist. That infection, that cosmic contamination, became the foundation of everything. 1 billion years later, another celestial named Zegreb the Aspirant came to Earth to search for the Progenitor. Zegreb also got infected by the Horde. And this is where the 1 million BC Avengers enter the story. The team found this enormous, infected, increasingly berserk celestial, and they fought it. They were able to take it down, not through raw power alone, but because the Horde infection had weakened Zegreb considerably. After subduing the creature, Odin wanted to nail the body to the moon as a message to any other celestials who might come. The Black Panther of this era argued against it. He was the voice of strategic caution on the team, warning that killing this celestial without understanding what was wrong with it might trigger consequences they couldn't predict. The team buried Zegreb under what would eventually become South Africa instead. Coming back to Agamotto specifically, because the story of what happened to him after that prehistoric era is one of the most interesting character arcs in Marvel's magical mythology. Agamotto did not stay a mortal being. Over the course of his impossibly long existence, he became something greater. He crossed the threshold from sorcerer into what Marvel calls a principality, a higher being whose name and power can be invoked by others. He became one of the Vishanti, a trio of ancient entities alongside his mother Oshtur and a being named Hoggoth. The Vishanti are literally what Doctor Strange calls upon when he uses magic. When Strange opens a spell with an invocation, Agamotto is one of the names he is calling on. That is the scope of what Agamotto became, a cosmic force that sorcerers tap into to do their work. In his full power, Agamotto was operating at a level that made him capable of going toe-to-toe with Galactus, not winning necessarily, but not backing down either. He once transformed into a monstrous caterpillar creature and attacked Galactus directly when the World Devourer tried to take the Eye of Agamotto by force. Oshtur and Hoggoth had to show up and tell him to stand down. In his later years in the comics, Agamotto's behavior became more complex and unsettling. He came to view Doctor Strange as a failure and orchestrated events to reclaim his artifacts from the Sorcerer Supreme. When Brother Voodoo held the title, Agamotto launched a full-scale demonic invasion of Earth to get his eye back. He tricked Iron Fist by posing as the Ancient One, nearly destroyed the New Avengers, and had to be stopped when Dr. Voodoo sacrificed himself to destroy the Eye and the Orb simultaneously, taking Agamotto out of the picture. A being who helped create the concept of the Sorcerer Supreme died for the second time because of a conflict over the very artifacts he had created to protect humanity. That contradiction is what makes Agamotto so much more interesting than a simple ancient wizard. He was the first line of defense, the template for every mystic defender that came after him, and eventually the threat that one of those defenders died stopping. He was never fully good or fully evil. He was old, and ancient things operate by rules that don't map cleanly onto our ideas of heroism or villainy. In the MCU, the Eye of Agamotto appears in Doctor Strange in 2016, worn by the Ancient One and later by Strange himself. The film establishes that Agamotto was Earth's first Sorcerer Supreme, that he founded the Masters of the Mystic Arts, that he built the three sanctums in New York, London, and Hong Kong to shield Earth from extra-dimensional threats, and that he discovered eldritch magic by learning how to pull energy from other dimensions into the earthly plane. The MCU's version of Agamotto also contained the Time Stone inside the eye, though in the comics, the eye is its own artifact with no Infinity Stone connection. That is one of the few meaningful departures between the two versions. What the MCU has not yet done is show us the full scale of what Agamotto accomplished, the prehistoric team, the battles at the beginning of time, the choice to become something beyond mortal. That story is still sitting there in the comics, waiting. If this video gave you something to think about, share it with someone who calls themselves a Marvel fan. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this one. And let us know in the comments section if you want to see Agamotto and the 1 Million BC Avengers on the large screens.